So yeah, if they murder someone and they live out their life naturally, at the time of death, they're going to suffer terribly in hellish conditions for that sinful activity. The best thing to relieve that person of future suffering is their life should be terminated. Because also, if you leave them alive, they may commit further sins, which is going to create further suffering. And also those sins that they've done, there's going to be massive reactions after the time of death. I mean, people think they can do any damn thing, right? And get away with it. But no, in the universal laws, they're very stringently maintained. You can't escape the reactions. Even, materialistic law, right? I mean, you may escape punishment. If you steal or whatever like that, you might not be caught. But in the universal laws, you will be caught. You can't escape, because the universal controllers, they see everything. You can't avoid them. I mean, it said, like, in the daytime, all your activities are seen by the sun, Suryadev, and he's a person. So he's watching. In the nighttime, Chandra, the moon god is watching at night. And Agni, the fire god. If anything is done in front of a fire, any fire, whether it's by wood or gas or coal or whatever, anything in front of a fire, Agni's watching. And wherever there's wind, right? Where is there a place where there's no wind? That's what we're reading now, right? That the mind is like the wind. The wind's everywhere. It's all pervading. So Vayu, the wind, is watching. So these are like universal policemen, So, and of course, ultimately, Paramatma, the super soul, is in everyone's heart. How can you escape that? So it means there's so many witnesses. Because and material law, right? You can't, prosecute someone unless there's a witness. So, but yeah, there's heaps of witnesses, in the universal law system. So, yes, you can't escape. So the Vedic king, understanding this, he would actually be doing a good service for the murderer or whatever by terminating their life on the spot, because that's like, you say, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? That's like creates a balance in that universal law.
I think Krishna is the ultimate to terminate someone's life. I don't think so anyone else can.
No, it can, because the king is a representative of God.
Yeah.
So
Krishna will give you authority.
Yeah, Krishna gives you authority, because I mean, do we really want to call Krishna and Krishna come and cut this guy's head off? Now Krishna is playing his flute. His pastimes is to play the flute, he's enjoying loving relationships with his devotees. We don't want him to do our dirty work, to clean up, nonsense people like that. So that's the whole point of being a devotee. We serve Krishna, not that Krishna serves us. So that's one service. That's one service, and Krishna has given these different guidelines there. Like, for example, the law book for mankind is called Manu Samhita. Prabhupada didn't translate that, but that he's mentioned some of those sections from Manu Samhita. And then it's mentioned there, one of the things that Prabhupada quotes from Manu Samhita, there's 6 aggressors. Manu Samhita means it's like the law book of mankind, written by the father of mankind. Manu is like the original man, is called Manu. Where does the English word man come from? Man, mankind, human. Where it comes from the Sanskrit word Manu. So Manu is the original man. And the original man was born from the mind of Lord Brahma. So in the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma created different beings from his mind. And those mental children are called Manasaputra. Manasa means the mind, so Putra means son. So they're created from his mind. So one time he created the first man, and his name was Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu was the very first man. And then he also created a wife for him, like that. So anyway, Manu has given us the law books for human beings to follow. And one of those laws is that, in their law book, is that there's 6 kinds of aggressors, and according to that law book, they can be killed, all 6 of them. If someone comes to kill you, you can kill them. If someone comes to burn your house down, you can kill them. And like that, I can't remember all 6, but there's 6.
One of them is somebody is taking your wife away. You can allow.
Yeah, I think one of them will be there. If someone comes to take your wife, you can kill him. You know, if someone comes to steal your wealth, you know, your riches, you can kill them.
And the
you know, and that if you kill them, there's no bad karma, because you're actually following the Vedas. That is the Vedic rule. You know, bad karma comes when you disobey the Vedas. If you go against the Vedas, then you immediately get bad karma. But if you follow the Vedas, there's no karmic reaction. Of course, you can't necessarily apply that in modern day society. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Judge. You know, I was just following the Vedas. No, say,
you're going in a prison for 25 years.
You're going in the prison for the rest of your life. You know, so, but anyway, we're just talking about that. But yeah, it's all very, very interesting things. And, you know, we've really strayed a long way away from that. But I was just pointing out that how we show our love for someone, you know, can be applied in different ways according to where they're at, you know. Like if someone is acting in a very demoniac way, you know, killing their body is actually love, because they're just creating, you know, further suffering for themselves. I mean, their current life is miserable because they're so demoniac. Their life is so miserable, and they're always in anxiety and always afraid and so envious and jealous, and so many, you know, bad qualities are there. And so their life is very miserable now, and their future life is going to be more miserable. So put them out of their misery, you know, and stop them from creating further miseries. And that's real love, you know, and that according to, if you follow the Vedic understanding, that's ahimsa, which means non-violence. Like so what I mean is, to kill a murderer is ahimsa. That's actually non-violence, because you're actually helping that soul to go upwards. He can actually continue going upwards. But if you don't kill him, that's called himsa. If you don't kill the murderer or the person that's creating some kind of crime, sinful activity, bad karma, that's himsa. Himsa means violence, because that soul is going to go down. So actually, you have to look at it in that way, that non-violence means to help the soul go upwards, and violence means anything that makes the soul go down. Like, for example, if we kill an animal, that's violence, because, see, because the soul is evolving through different species of life, one life after another, 8,400,000 species. So before human being, then the soul is always going upwards from one species to the next. You know, you have to spend, you know, whatever, 20 years in the body of a cow, and then then when that body dies, then you get, you know, so many years in the next species, and then so many years in the next species, like that. But if it's, say, if you kill the cow after 5 years, you know what happens next? See, that cow was destined to spend 20 years in that body, and after the 20 years is up, then it's eligible to go into the next body upwards, the next one up. But if you kill it after 5 years, what does that mean? What happens? It has to take birth again in the same species to finish off 15 years. So you've slowed down that soul's evolving to the next species. So that's violence. So violence is not about what you do to the body. Violence is what effect is it having on the soul reaching the point of being liberated from the material world, of going upwards and ultimately back to the spiritual world. That if you slow down the soul going back to the spiritual world, that's violence. And if you help the soul get back to the spiritual world, that's non-violence. Say, what happens if you cut a lettuce? Basically, you kill the lettuce, okay? You kill the lettuce and then you offer it to your deities, you know, or your picture of Radha Krishna Gauri Thai. Now, you kill the lettuce. You kill the body of the lettuce. Was that violence or non-violence?
As long as you offer, it's not a violence.
If you kill the lettuce and then just stuffed it in your mouth,
then it's
that's violence.
Yeah, it is.
Because that lettuce was supposed to live for 3 months and you killed it after 1 month. You know, so it has to come back again to take the same body of lettuce for the remaining 2 months. And probably you're going to end up killing it again. You know, it's going to take a long time to finish off that 3 months as a lettuce. You know, so... But then if you offer it to Krishna after 1 month, then it doesn't have to go through the next whatever 5-6 million births to come to a human body. That soul, just listen to this, that soul, which is in the body of a lettuce, gets directly promoted to the body of a human being in the next life if it gets offered to Krishna. That's amazing, isn't it? So that's non-violence. You know, that you killed that lettuce, but you offered it to Krishna. I mean, you killed the body, but it's actually non-violence because the soul got elevated so much. You know, but if you don't offer it, and if it's just killed and eaten, then that's violence. So, you know, you really have to have knowledge to understand what to do and what not to do like that. Interesting, huh?
Yep.
These are the very subtle laws of material nature. Anyway, shall we continue from the Bhagavad Gita? Where are we up to? When we finished last time, we were still on that the mind verse, right? It's like the wind. But how far did we get through the purport? Did we start on the purport? Does anyone remember? How far we?
Goshan Prabhu just read the purport before.
Oh, before I came on.
Yeah.
Oh, you read the whole purport?
But there was a lot. There was a lot in it.
Okay, we can just discuss some points there. Was there anything that came to mind when you were all reading it and hearing it? Is there anything?
Mana Krishna Paravarinde. That.
Oh yeah.
Mantra. Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah, it says if you are in there, then only you can control your mind.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'll just go to there. Oh yeah. Yeah, so Prabhupada was making a point in this purport that through the regular yoga process, very difficult to control the mind. And even Arjuna, who's so much more qualified 5,000 years ago than what we are now, you know, right into Kali Yuga, we're nowhere near as qualified in controlling the mind or anything like that as what Arjuna was. But even 5,000 years ago, he was saying, I can't follow this yoga process to control the mind. You know, so,
What
but
chance we have?
Prabhupada's, yeah, what chance do we have? If he's saying, honestly, I can't do it 5,000 years ago, then what's our chance? So then what is recommended, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada's quoting the beginning of a verse, which is actually from the Srimad Bhagavatam in regards to a great devotee named Ambarish Maharaj. From memory, that's in the 9th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Ambarish Maharaj. So the first line from that verse he's quoted is that mana, so mana means the mind, and Krishna, so he's put the mind at Krishna's pada. Krishna pada means Krishna's feet, and Aravinda means lotus. So Krishna's feet are compared to lotuses. That means the lotus, why the lotus is used as a symbol for Krishna, because the lotus is the most beautiful of all flowers. Have you all seen the beautiful white lotuses at the farm?
Yes.
Has everyone seen? Aren't they beautiful?
Very nice.
Or maybe, I know, like Bob, you've been to tropical places. You would have seen lotuses there, right?
Many, yeah.
They're beautiful, aren't they?
Yes.
Pink lotuses, like blue lotuses, yellow lotuses. They're just so beautiful. So Krishna's eyes are compared to lotuses. His navel, you know, his belly button is compared to lotuses. His feet is compared to lotuses. Just means his whole body is just so beautiful beyond description. Of course, Krishna's body is far, far more beautiful than lotuses, but that's like the nearest, you know, material comparison that we've experienced that we can compare it to. I mean, you can only really conceive of something that you've seen before, right? Or you've heard it, you know, you've experienced it through some sense. You can understand something if you've smelt it, or you've tasted it, or you've seen it. But if you've never seen it or tasted it, smelt it, or through your senses touched it, you know, it's like inconceivable, which is called a chincha. So we have, you know, seen a lotus, so we can understand, you know, something maybe similar to that. So that's like, you could say, maybe the nearest thing we could compare Krishna's beauty to, the beauty of a lotus. So it said that's what he did to control his mind. He kept his mind at the lotus feet of Krishna. It means he's always meditating and concentrating on Krishna. And what's the easiest way to focus our mind on Krishna is by chanting Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And that was another amazing thing that happened in this protest. Oh my God, that's incredible. That so many of the protesters were chanting Hare Krishna just while they were roaming around. It was incredible because the devotees were constantly chanting there. In their tent, they were sitting down chanting. They walked all around and everywhere. They're up on the stage. The protesters organized they could go and chant sometimes on the stage. And like for like 12,
was there?
Oh, they would take turns. Some would come and go, but on average, maybe just half a dozen or something. But people just joined in. Like when they were walking around, you'd have 5 or 6 devotees and like 30 or 40 of the protesters walking around with them. And they'd be dancing and singing, and they chanted just one tune the whole day long, just to really impregnate that sound in the brain. You know, it never changed. It was Prabhupada's original tune. That's the only tune they sung for 3 weeks. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So you're like hearing this mantra like 10, 12 hours a day. Everyone's hearing it, like thousands of people. And it just sinks into the brain, you know, into the mind. And people would just be walking around, just this complete, like ordinary person, and they just be going, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And I sent one bhakta, new devotee that had come to help me. I'd sent him out to buy some stuff from the supermarket, and he's just walking along one of the streets in Wellington, and this guy, he was just one guy. They were walking along the street, not far away from each other, and this devotee, he heard this guy was just constantly chanting Hare Krishna, and then the devotee, he also piped up Hare Krishna, and then this other guy heard the devotee say Hare Krishna, so he turned around to the devotee and said, yeah, this Hare Krishna chant, you can't get it out of your head, can you? It's like, I can't get it out of my mind. It's like, he just couldn't stop chanting it. It's just like taking him over. So it's just this is how to control the mind. This is such a more positive way, rather than like the yoga process, which is basically you have to shut down the mind. You have to stop the mind. So that's what this verse is pointing out. That good luck, it's like trying to stop the wind. You can't turn it off. I mean, there's no off switch for your mind, which is actually in the heart, not in the brain. But you can't turn it off. Trying to shut it down is like trying to stop the wind moving. It's impossible. But what is recommended, not try to stop the mind, but what's recommended is to engage the mind in relation with Krishna, to hear Krishna's names, to see his beautiful form, to taste his prasadam, to hear his pastimes. This is what's recommended. Krishna's name, which is nama in Sanskrit, name is nama. The rupa means form. See Krishna's form. And lila means pastimes. And guna means qualities. So that's what's recommended, that we should connect with these different aspects of the Lord. And that will capture our mind, engage our mind. And we see one of Krishna's names is Manohar. Very beautiful name, Manohar. Mana, once again, means mind. Har means steal. Do you understand that? What does that mean? Mind stealer. Mind stealer, or stealing the mind. You understand that? Why is Krishna called mind stealer? Do you know what happens when Krishna plays the flute in Vrindavan? What happens to the gopis and the cows and the birds and the river Yamuna?
Like you just get frozen.
Yeah, you just become completely captivated, completely attracted. Why Krishna has the name Krishna? Do you know what Krishna means?
All attractive.
All attractive. So he attracts us. He attracts our mind. He attracts our senses. He attracts everything. It's like a magnet. That's the real meaning of Vrindavan. Vrindavan is that place where everything is attracted to Krishna. Even in Vrindavan, even the trees are attracted to Krishna. When Krishna and Balaram would walk through the forests of Vrindavan, the branches of the trees would like bow down to Krishna, and the fruits would be like touching the ground. They'd be trying to touch Krishna's feet as he was walking past. So every living entity in Vrindavan is so attracted to Krishna, not just in human bodies, but all the different forms. The deers in Vrindavan would lick Krishna's feet because it's like nectar. They would come up and lick Krishna's feet, like that. So the cows would bathe Krishna with their milk, giving him a bath. So Krishna's so attractive, so captivating. So that's the real thing. All we have to do is bring our mind in contact with Krishna. Bring our mind in contact with Krishna. Then the mind will become completely controlled by that. Completely controlled by that. And how is that working? It's because Krishna is the only object that can fully satisfy the mind. Krishna is just so beautiful and so attractive that the mind becomes completely captivated, completely captured. No other object can just another man or a woman completely capture the mind, not for long, for some time. What happens when wow, that woman's so beautiful, I'm so attractive, but what about when she gets old and wrinkled up and everything? Probably not, and then there's divorce, right? Because why divorce? Because in the beginning, it's very attractive, pleasing to the mind and the senses, but after some time it's not looking so good anymore, and then see you later. So the mind lost interest, the mind lost interest. Or, wow, that man's really wealthy, I'm going to hook up with him, there's so much money. But what happens what's the first thing that happens when he loses his money?
Oh, and she left him.
Ta-ta.
Yeah.
No more money. But the Krishna, he has unlimited beauty, unlimited wealth, unlimited power. All these, we know the 6 opulences in full, right? Bhagavan. So the mind becomes just so attractive, and you're never going to lose that attraction. Krishna's eternally having all those things completely, so the mind is so satisfied with Krishna and never looks anywhere else, But no other object can satisfy the mind, nothing. And what is the nature of the soul? We're pleasure seeking. Where can you get unlimited pleasure from? Because the soul's looking for unlimited pleasure. Where can you get that from? Money?
No.
Cars, houses,
No.
Children, family members, jobs. Can you get unlimited pleasure? You can get some, but is that enough for what the soul's
got a job,
looking for?
uncertainty. How can you get that pleasure?
Because we know it's all material objects are temporary and ultimately leading to suffering. So is that going to satisfy the soul? No, it's not. The soul's looking for unlimited, never-ending pleasure. So what object can give us unlimited, unending pleasure? It's only Krishna. Because he's unlimited and he's eternal. But all temporary objects of the material world, they can't do that. So that's why in the material world, the mind is jumping from one thing to another, like a monkey, right? We go from one relationship to another, we're looking for pleasure. We go from one job to another looking for pleasure. We go from, one country to another looking for pleasure. We go from one phone to the next looking for pleasure, one car to the next, you get the idea. We're never satisfied. We're always looking, because nothing can satisfy that unlimited desire for pleasure that we're seeking for. And all that we're doing is we're looking in the wrong place, like that example given, right? You're looking for water in the desert. There's nothing wrong with the idea that you're looking for water, but you're looking in the wrong place in the desert. You're not going to find it there. But water does exist, but not in the desert. So the idea is that, we're looking for happiness, but you're looking for it in the material world. Happiness exists, yes, and that's our natural right. That's our heritage as a soul. But we're looking in the wrong place in the material world. But as soon as you connect with the spiritual world, you connect with Krishna, then you've found the real happiness. And once you've reached that, then there's no turning back. Then the mind doesn't jump around anymore. See, the mind is known as chanchala. It's always flickering and moving around. But as soon as the mind connects up with Krishna's Krishna's feet and Krishna's service takes shelter of Krishna, then it stops jumping around. Then it's not having that flickering, nature like the wind, like what's mentioned in this verse anymore. Then it becomes steady. Then that's one stage that one reaches in the progress of bhakti yoga, of devotional service. It's called nishta. Nishta means fixed. Nishta means fixed. So when you've reached a certain point of maturity in Krishna consciousness, then that's it. Then there's no up and down anymore. In the beginning, who's going up and down at the moment? Most of us are going up and down. But that's because we're just starting out, we're not mature yet in devotion. But at a certain point, when you become mature in devotion, then you become steady. You become completely fixed at Krishna's feet. And your mind is always meditating on him, thinking about him. But even from the very beginning, the mind becomes so attracted. So like that guy, he'd only heard the holy name for a few days. But he just couldn't get it. Like he said, I can't get it out of my head. It's just amazing, So, and the devotee that saw him became so inspired. And then he told me, and I became so inspired. And I've seen that before happen. That it's like, it's addictive. And that's because of Krishna's all-attractive nature. Does anyone else want to say anything about that? So that verse is actually a long verse that starts off with that. First of all, he engaged his mind and fixing at the lotus feet of Krishna. And then it goes on and says that he engaged his eyes in seeing the beautiful form of the deity. And then he engaged his tongue in tasting the remnants offered to the Lord, the food remnants offered to the Lord. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places, like to the temples and the holy places. He engaged his hands in serving the devotees. Like some devotees, some of Prabhupada's disciples and servants, they had the good fortune to give personal massage to Prabhupada's divine form, his beautiful form, his body. They would, because Prabhupada was massaged daily, at least twice a day. I think, sometimes 3 times a day. And they had the good fortune to be able to massage him. And when Prabhupada departed in 1977, anyone and everyone that came there to Vrindavan could just go up to where Prabhupada was lying on his deathbed and massage him. Some would rub his head, some would rub his feet, and some would put their heads on his feet. And that's the perfection of your hands. That's the perfection to touch the body of a pure devotee of the Lord. That's the perfection of life. Even to see see the deity, but even to see a devotee, to see a pure devotee. It said to see a pure devotee is the perfection of the eyes. Like that. So this is the process of how we purify our mind, purify our senses, that we've got to connect it with Krishna and connect it with Krishna's devotees. And that's the perfection. Actually, it said to Mahaprasadam is when we eat the food that has been offered to Krishna and he has eaten it. So we offer the food to Krishna and Krishna eats it, and we eat that food. That food that has been eaten by Krishna, that's called Mahaprasadam. Now that food that has been offered to Krishna and eaten by Krishna and then eaten by a devotee of Krishna, and if we eat that which has been eaten by a devotee, which has been eaten by Krishna, that's called Mahaprasadam. Maha Prasadam. And that is most powerful. That is even more purifying than Mahaprasadam, is the Maha Prasadam, the food remnants of a pure devotee of Krishna. And it's actually said the 3 most purifying substances in the universe that can awaken our Krishna consciousness, our original love for God. Like I said, like we've said that that originally we're all pure spirit souls and we all have love for God. We all love Krishna, but that's covered over by Maya. So how do we remove that covering? Well, the 3 most powerful ways to remove all that ignorance and lust and all the rubbish over the heart. That's one of them, is the Mahaprasadam, the food remnants of a pure devotee. The second one is the water that has washed their feet. The water that has washed the feet of the devotee. Of course, we also, the pujaris, the priests, wash the body of the deities in the morning when they bathe the deities. That's called abhishekam. Abhishekam means when the bathing, you're bathing the deity. So, and that's kept in a bowl usually in every temple, and that's called charanamrita. So charana means feet, and amrita means nectar. So the nectar from washing the feet of the Lord, that's called charanamrita, and that's in New Gokula, and every temple has that charanamrita. So everyone can drink that water that's washed over the body of the Lord, and that's very purifying. But it's said even you could say more powerful is the water that has washed the feet of the pure devotee. And so that's the second one. And the third one is the dust from the feet of a devotee. The dust from their feet. And we hear in Krishna book that, if you've read that when Akrura was sent by Kamsa to invite Krishna to come to Mathura for a wrestling match, actually that wasn't the real reason. The real reason was that Kamsa invited Krishna to try to kill Krishna, but externally their invitation was there. So Akrura went there to bring Krishna, and Krishna went with him. But when Akrura, and Akrura was also a relative of Krishna, so that's why Kamsa arranged that he would go. So he thought, well, Krishna will trust this arrangement because that's his relative. And so when Akrura was so excited, that he wasn't excited about inviting Krishna to potentially him being, attacked and killed by Kamsa. But he was excited just that it was an opportunity to see Krishna. Because like I said, he's so beautiful. Everyone was like so ecstatic, to get a glimpse. If you got a glimpse of Krishna, you just felt so good. Just felt like this is a perfection of my life. What do you mean tomorrow I can see Krishna? I was just so ecstatic. So he was on a high that tonight or tomorrow I'm going to see Krishna. And his mind was already completely absorbed. I'm going to see Krishna. I'm going to see Krishna. I'm going to go and see Krishna. It's so beautiful. And then, so anyway, when he got to the outskirts of Vrindavan, he got off his chariot, which was actually a golden chariot. Kamsa sent his best chariot, to try. And another thing to try to think, he thought Krishna will be attracted to come because he gets to ride in a golden chariot. But do you think Krishna cares about a golden chariot? Krishna's the source of all gold. He made it all. What does he care about some little golden chariot? But he got off his golden chariot and he rolled around on the ground. So why did he roll around on the ground?
He was so ecstatic.
ecstatic. But what was the need for him to roll on the ground?
Because Krishna had walked on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, you're on fire again, Bob. How did he know that he had reached Vrindavan? They didn't have any signposts at that point. There were no signposts 5,000 years ago. So how did he know that he'd reached Vrindavan, which is where Krishna walks around with his devotees? Because he saw Krishna's footprints. And how can he tell that these are Krishna's footprints? Krishna has different symbols on his feet. There's so many symbols on Krishna's feet. And like there's a symbol of a lotus on Krishna's feet, a symbol of a club, a symbol of the Sudarshan chakra, the disc. There's an elephant goad, and there's so many, a water pot. There's all these different symbols. And also by that's how you tell that the person is God, because it's mentioned in the scriptures, different symptoms explaining the different external features of who's God. So if anyone comes down the road and says, hey, I'm God, you should all worship me, surrender to me and worship me, you can say, can you just show me your foot? And if they don't have all those symbols, you say, you're a rascal, mate. You better go away. I'm going to kick you in the head. So then you can't be cheated. So all these symptoms are there, and it has to be matching with the scriptures. So anyway, Krishna has all the symbols of God, all the different features that he's God. So these footprints were there with all the symbols there. So he knew that this is Vrindavan. This is where Krishna's walking. But normally, of course, people's footprints get all, smeared over, right? Because some other person or animal will kick over, some dust and stuff. But Krishna's footprints never get covered over by anything. Do you know why that is? Because everyone's so respectful of Krishna, no one would dare walk on top of Krishna's footprint. No one would dare, not a human, not an animal, not a bird, nothing, would ever dare go on top of Krishna's footprint. So Krishna's footprint's always there. So anyway, the Akrura was like getting the dust from kicked around by Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And not only he wanted, the dust from Krishna's feet, but the dust from his devotees' feet, and even Lord Brahma, right? The most highly advanced, most intelligent being in the universe. Do you know what he desired, what birth he desired to have in his next life?
I'm guessing a peacock. No?
No, not a peacock. He desired...
The devotee of Krishna.
Here, this one. He desired, may I take birth as a clump of grass in Vrindavan, so that so I will get the dust of the feet of Krishna's devotees on me. So I can get the dust of the feet of Krishna's devotees. Isn't that beautiful? So humble. He's like has the highest post in the universe, and he wants to take birth as a clump of grass. But we have to understand, that's the greatest fortune, is to get, like I said, the dust from the feet of devotees, the water from their feet, their food remnants like that, because the devotees are so dear to Krishna. So what we should try to learn by this is we should always have the greatest respect For Krishna, of course, but for Krishna's devotees also. Never offend devotees. Always give respect. And we don't, from our position, we don't exactly know where anyone is at, do we? Do we all know how advanced any other person is?
Only Krishna knows. Nobody knows.
Do you have like a advancement detector?
No.
Okay, you're 20%, you're 50%. I'm just using a piece of aloe vera because it just happened to be here. But it's, some detector. You're 90% pure devotee, you're a 50% pure devotee.
There's
But how
no
do you know,
gauge.
How do you know if someone's dear to Krishna or not? Actually, we know that everyone's dear to Krishna. Because we're all his children, he loves everyone. But especially if someone has done some service for Krishna, then we have to be very careful. So that's one, very important thing, that, if you don't have anything good to say about a devotee, then just shut up. Don't say anything, but don't say anything bad, because, that can be a great inhibitor, to our spiritual life, like that. Of course, there is constructive criticism, but if your point is to actually try to help the person or whatever like that, but then we might say something. But if it's just to pull someone down or whatever like that, then better don't say anything, because that's just like those three things they can help us so much advance in spiritual life. If you go against the devotee, then they're the most destructive things you can do. Like we know also, the same, dealing with the same person, Ambarish Maharaj, right? This devotee, he's engaged all his mind and all of his senses in Krishna's service. Like I explained how he engaged his eyes and his, he said he uses his nose and smelling the flowers and the fragrant tulsi leaves offered to the feet of Krishna. He would smell the tulsi offered to Krishna, the remnants of tulsi he would smell. So like that, engaged all of his senses, everything Krishna's service. So he's a very, intimately connected with Krishna. But then one great sage, powerful sage, very austere, doing a lot of austerities and controlling the mind, controlling the senses, very strictly, and celibacy, no contact with women and fasting and everything like that. And he could travel anywhere he wanted in the universe. Even he could enter into Vaikuntha, the spiritual world. He had so much powers. But one day he made the biggest blunder of his life, because he offended Ambarish, who was a great devotee of the Lord, like I said. He actually not only just offended him, he tried to kill him. He pulled a hair out of his head. He was angry because he came to Ambarish's palace, and Ambarish said, "Please come and eat." And that's the custom, you feed your guests. And Durvasa said, "Yes, I love to do that, but before I eat, I'd like to have a bath." And Ambarish said, "Sure." So, but at that time, while he was away taking a bath, was the auspicious time for him to break a fast that he'd been doing. There's a right time to break fast, and there's a wrong time. So that was the right time. So, but that was a dilemma, because in Veda culture, your guest is eating before the host. You don't eat before your guest. So that was a dilemma. And then after consulting with his advisors, they came up with a solution that just sip water, because technically water is not eating, but at the same time it is taking something, so you are like breaking the fast. So, but Durvasa was such a powerful sage, he could detect even from where he was far away that his host had taken something. So he was so angry that he pulled a hair out of his head and smashed it on the ground. And then one great demoniac, being came out of that, and he sent it to kill Ambarish. So Ambarish just sat there like peacefully. Okay, well, If this is Krishna's plan, that I'm going to die now, well, so be it. He didn't do anything. It said that he had so much power himself as a pure devotee, he could have counteracted it. But he didn't do anything. He just completely put himself at the mercy of the Lord, completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. And do you know what happened? The Lord has vowed to always protect his devotees. Name bhakta pranashyati, that my devotee will never perish. So he had given his Sudarshan disc, his chakra, there for the protection of his devotee. So the Sudarshan chakra took after this demon, and the demon couldn't do anything, so it like took off. And but that wasn't the end of the story. So Ambarish was saved from this demon, but then Sudarshan went after Durvasa, the sage, and Durvasa went to Lord Shiva, who was his brother. I mean, that's how big time the sage is. He's also one of the original beings in the universe. He's the brother, one of the brothers of Lord Shiva, means also an offspring from Lord Brahma. He's one of Brahma's children. So he's big time. So he went to his brother Lord Shiva and said, hey, brother, bro, the Sudarshan chakra is coming after me, save me. And Shiva said, sorry, brother, I can't help you. You'll have to go and try to find help somewhere else. And then he went to his father, Lord Brahma, and he said, my dear father, please help me from the Sudarshan chakra. And his dad said, sorry, I can't help you. Try Lord Vishnu. So he was such a powerful yogi, he went even into Vaikuntha. He went right to Lord Vishnu, and he said, my dear Lord Vishnu, please save me from your chakra. This is your disc. You please save me. And you know what Lord Vishnu said?
I can't.
Oh, I can't help you. He said, my devotee is in my heart. And I am in my devotee's heart. I do not know anyone else except for them. And they do not know anyone else except for me. He said, I'm not independent from my devotee. I'm completely dependent on them. I'm controlled by them. He said, you go back, if you want to save yourself, you have to go back to my devotee. And if he forgives you, then I will call off my disc. Otherwise, that's it. So he went all the way back to Ambarish, and he fell down flat at his feet and begged forgiveness. And Ambarish said, sure, no worries. I didn't even feel anything bad towards you. I felt sorry that I ate something before you. He didn't feel bad at all. But that's the process, that's the process. If you offend a devotee, the devotee's not offended, but the Lord's offended. If you offend the Lord's not offended, but the devotee's offended. Because that's the nature of love, isn't it? If you love someone, you can't tolerate any offense towards them. You don't care about yourself. But if you do something against someone you love, then all hell breaks loose. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I'll say that again. If you offend the Lord's not offended, but the devotee's offended. And if you offend the devotee's not offended, but the Lord's offended. And that's love. That's because there's so much love there. So these things are very fundamental. We have to understand. We have to understand these things if we want to progress in devotional service. If you understand this properly, you can make so much progress in Krishna consciousness. And if you don't, you won't make progress like that. So it's very important. Like, for example, the 10 offenses to the holy name. What's the first one?
Strange.
Jaini said to blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. That's number one. You know, this is what has to be avoided like that. So these are very fundamental principles. And if we understand it, like we can our bhakti will be like a rocket ship. And if we don't, it's never going to get off the ground. So yeah, this is why we're speaking about these things. I mean, I can't believe it. You know, that's another lesson I've got, you know. After distributing all this prasadam, I've just felt so much love directed towards me by people that are not even devotees. What they have said towards me, and what one thing out of a million things that has happened to me in this last 2 weeks of the loving exchanges between people. I was just walking out with some of our equipment. We were walking out, and one guy who must have had some food from us, he just held my arm as I was pushing a trolley full of equipment, and I was sick as a dog. And he held my arm and said into my ear, "I love you."
Wow.
Like that. And it's just like, in my heart, it's just every day, it's like that. People coming up and hugging me and saying so many things, and it's just so moving. And I've been crying every day, you know. And the only people that have been unhappy about what I've been doing here is some devotees that have been criticizing.
Wow.
That this is illegal and everything, and this is going against the government, and this is not supported by ISKCON, and like this. But it's so ironic, you know, that non-devotees are appreciating our service and everything, and some, not all devotees, but a few devotees have been, and it's the only criticism I've received is from some devotees. So it's really ironic, you know. So like that, you just
Only
you know,
because they see the big shoes, your big shoes that they have no hope in filling. They are jealous. That's why.
possibly. I mean, we don't know why, but whatever the reason why, but definitely deluded by Maya, because this is one of the fundamental principles established by Prabhupada that we should be doing, is distributing prasadam, chanting the holy name, distributing books. And one of Jayanti's points was that in terms of, well, that it's illegal going against the government, well, in Prabhupada's time, he was behind all of that. Like, if you even look where you guys are in Australia, did you know it was illegal to chant Hare Krishna on the streets of anywhere in Australia in those days, in the late 60s, early 70s? It was illegal. And Prabhupada was insisting devotees to go out and chant on the streets. And what was the result? They would be thrown in jail. And what was the result of that? There was no prasadam in the jail, so the devotees fasted. And the prison wardens were so afraid the devotees...
Russia was worse. Salted bread.
Yeah, so what's this about illegal, that we can't do it because it's illegal? I mean, that's happened since the beginning of the Hare Krishna movement. We've been illegal. So, you know, and that was, you know, that was directed by the spiritual master, that we have to follow the orders of Lord Chaitanya and the orders of Krishna, not anyone else, you know. And we have to, of course, I mean, generally we do follow the law of the land. I mean, we do follow the law of the land, but when the law of the land is going against our fundamental principles, like if the law of the land says you're not allowed to chant Hare Krishna, well, we say, stuff you. We're going to keep chanting. Even you, I mean, like Haridas Thakur, I'll give you an example. 500 years ago, India was controlled by Muslims. They were the government, the Muslim government. Now, you know what it's like in a Muslim rule, right? You pretty much have to become a Muslim, otherwise that's it. We're going to chop your head off. So one Muslim became a devotee, Haridas Thakur. And when the Muslims heard, and that's heavy duty, if a Muslim converts to being a Hindu, not that we're Hindus, but they thought like that. But if a Muslim becomes a Hindu, that's like number one, death penalty. They're happy for a Hindu to convert to become a Muslim, and they forcibly did that. You know what their technique was of getting a Hindu to become a Muslim? They would sprinkle water from a pot that had been used for washing their feet. They'd sprinkle that on the head of a Hindu, and they were so ritualistic at that time that they thought, well, I've become a Muslim now. If they had that been contaminated by having the water sprinkled, or Jaini just said that they would spit on them, and then that's it, you become a Muslim now, they've spat on you. Anyway, it's pretty ridiculous. But anyway, they're very happy for a Hindu to become a Muslim, but they definitely were not happy for a Muslim to become a Hindu, and they'd kill the person. So anyway, Haridas Thakur was one of the chief devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Haridas Thakur. Lord Chaitanya made him the main teacher of the holy name, because he was chanting 300,000 names of the Lord every day, which equates to 192 rounds a day. So if ever you feel like complaining about chanting 16, then he was chanting 192 rounds every day. And if he didn't finish his prescribed number of rounds, he wouldn't sleep and he wouldn't eat. So because he had such a high standard of chanting, Lord Chaitanya made him the leader, the acharya of chanting. And he was a Muslim, born in a Muslim family. And anyway, so the Muslims eventually, they caught up with him and they said, hey, mate, you better give up all this chanting Hare Krishna rubbish, or we're gonna kill you. And what did Haridas say? Did he bow down to them and said, yeah, okay, I'll follow the Lord? No, he said, you can cut my body into thousands of pieces, but I'll still chant. So they said, okay, take him out into the marketplace, means a public place where all the people are watching, and tie him up there and then thrash him. So they'd have these bamboo canes, and they just beat him. Normally people would die after 2 or 3 sessions, but it was 10 sessions, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Eventually the people thrashing him, they lost all their strength. They'd been doing it for so long. And he was just looking up at them and smiling at them, chanting. And they were just thrashing. And 22 times, they did it 22 times, which was unheard of. And then it got to the point where they were crying and said, if you don't die, then the king is going to be so upset, he's going to order our families to be executed. So when he heard that he would be a cause of their suffering, then he just apparently died on the spot. He just looked like he died. So what they did, they threw him in the river, which was an insult from a Muslim point of view. Being thrown in the river was an insult, but from a Vedic point of view, it's a great blessing, because it was the river Ganges and all that holy river. Because Muslims, they bury the dead in the ground. So, and then he floated, his apparently dead body floated down the river, and then when it came to the other side, he walked out. He walked out. He wasn't dead at all. So like that, and then he just kept on chanting. And then when the Muslim ruler heard that this guy had been thrashed so much and he's walking around, then he realized, oh my God, this person must be like a great saint. and I've offended him. So the Muslim ruler was so moved that he went and like surrendered to Haridas Thakur. But that was my point there, that, you know, that devotees sometimes are involved in what seems to be illegal activities. So, but we have to follow our principles, because if we stop chanting Hare Krishna, then what happens to our Krishna consciousness? I mean, look, what have the governments been doing? They've closed temples, closed churches, closed mosques. You know, you can't go to a place of public worship. You can't associate together and pray or anything like that. And if you don't take the vaccine. But even in lockdown times, you know, you can't go there. That was for months, you know, we couldn't go there. And now, like where I am now, right, there's a temple in Wellington, and there's a Hare Krishna temple. And then I used to live there for 2 years. And there's a restaurant in Wellington, also Hare Krishna restaurant. I can't go to either of them. I can't go.
Because?
I can't go and eat in our own restaurant. I can't go to my own temple, you know, because I'm not vaccinated. So I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But
It's
is that
completely
Haridas
insane.
Thakur was a pure devotee?
Oh, completely pure, yeah.
But then how come the Krishna disc didn't come and help them?
Krishna did. Well, like I said, normally someone dies after 2 or 3. So how did he survive 22? So after that happened, Lord Chaitanya came to him and said that when you were being beaten, I came with my Sudarshan disc to kill them all. He was like so angry. He thought, I'm going to kill them. But he said, because you prayed for me to spare their life. So I said, I couldn't kill them. Because you were so merciful, you prayed to me not to kill them. So he said, I put my back on top of yours. That's why I didn't feel anything. And then Lord Chaitanya, he showed Haridas's back, and his back was all marks from the beatings. I was on Lord Chaitanya's back. That's love. That's how much the Lord loves his devotees. The Lord took all those beatings on his back. Of course, the Lord's transcendental. He's not going to suffer. But still, that's showing how much he loves his devotees. So, can we say, why did the Lord not protect him? The Lord did protect him. And the Lord glorified his devotee. Now, Haridas Thakur, even 500 years ago that happened, but he's famous. He's so famous. And, you know, so it's so sweet, you know, when we understand the relationship between the Lord and his devotees. And that's what the Srimad Bhagavatam is. For all the 12 cantos is all about the loving relationships between the Lord and his different incarnations and his different devotees. You know, like Bhagavad Gita, the love between Krishna and Arjuna, and, you know, Bhagavatam between Prahlad and Nrsimhadev, the love there. Isn't it Prahlad? They tried to kill Prahlad so many ways, and the Lord protected him. They threw him off a cliff, and the Lord manifested in the form of cotton wool at the bottom and caught him. You know, they put him in a pot of boiling oil, but he wasn't burnt. They fed him poisoned food, but he didn't die from poisoning. He was stabbed with weapons, but he didn't die. So the Lord protected him there. And then Dhruva Maharaj, loving relationships there. And Lord Brahma, loving relationship there. Lord Shiva and Krishna, loving relationship there. There's so many sweet relationships. And why do we want to hear about all these relationships?
Because
what's the desirable objective we should get out of
we
hearing
want to
about
be in
I
relationship.
want that. That's the kind of relationship I want. Someone that loves me like that. Someone that's not going to exploit and abuse me like the New Zealand government. I don't want that. I want a real relationship with someone that really cares and loves me. I want to have a relationship with Krishna, not with Jacinta Ardern or any, crappy person like that. This is the idea. It's so captivating. Hear about how Krishna loves the gopis. He loves Yashoda and Nanda and Arjuna. It's so important for us to hear about that. If you don't hear about that, we're always going to be enamored and think, oh, the Prime Minister loves us, cares about us, Yeah, duh. You're only thinking like that because you don't know there's something much better than that. Because people don't know there's anything better than my relationship with the Prime Minister or my stupid boss or anything like that. They think there's nothing more than that. Then they settle for that. They think it's better than nothing. So but as soon as you hear about the relationship you can have with Krishna, then you think, well, God, everything else is insignificant. Everything else is insignificant. Anyone else? I've gone over time. Anyway, we missed out on a few weeks, so I'm exempt from sticking to the schedule. But anyway, I know you all have other things you have to do. But does anyone else want to say anything? Anything comes to mind? Sorry, I'm more emotional than normal. It's just been a very emotional period for me.
It's lovely to see.
My last day was there yesterday, and I just saw so many people just crying, and I was crying. They were crying that we were finishing there. They were so sad. They weren't sad about the stupid government, but they were sad that we were going, and they were so touched, and I was touched, and it was just incredible. It was just incredible. And I'll just share one little pastime. And in the middle of it all, there was it was late in the night, and we'd pretty much finished up because we were cooking from like 7:30 in the morning till about 8 o'clock at night, and the food was normally gone by about 9 o'clock or something. And so one night we were sort of cleaning up, and 3 people came, and the lady said from the organisers group that the security guard, he's such an awesome security guard, he's looking after us all and everything like that, but they'd moved the tent that his stuff was in, and it got stolen, and it had all of his money and cards and everything in it, and all his possessions and everything. Even he didn't have even shoes. So, and he hasn't eaten today. He hasn't eaten anything today. Do you have any food? And I said, well, all I have is rice. And he said, yeah, I'm happy just with rice.
And avocado.
Yeah, and then, how did you know?
Because he told us a story before, and he gave me $50.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I won't tell you again then. I forgot. I already told you. But yeah, there was so many things like that. It was just amazing. But then he said, that when I gave him that rice and avocado, he just looked at me and he said, Hare Krishna. And that just meant so much to me. Amazing. It was so amazing. And then, I gave him the rice and avocado, and then I gave him $50, realizing he'd lost all his money. And then he said, Hare Krishna. And then the organizer that brought him, she said to me, Hare Krishna. And then they left. And then another guy who come with them just to see what's going on, he said, look, I have a different faith than you, but I've been watching you, and you have some power. And then he said Hare Krishna.
Oh, very good.
So that was just so many ecstatic things like that. People saying Hare Krishna and so appreciative of prasadam, and they're so happy. I mean, I've never seen, you know, so many happy people, you know. It was just amazing. I mean, in one sense, it was a very heavy thing, you know, protesting and everything. But the protesters were the happiest people. And if you go outside the protesting bubble, I mean, the people look so unhappy and so morose. And yeah, it was just an amazing experience. Anyway, I better
Such
not.
nice stories, Ave. This sounds so nice.
Oh, and all the other people, they have amazing stories too. I mean, it's just been ecstatic. It's not only just me. I mean, but there was just so much, you know, really care and affection and real love and kindness and shown, you know, towards each other there. It was just a very wonderful experience of people wanting to give and serve, and it was just incredible, amazing. That's all inspired by Prabhupada's love, Prabhupada's compassion.
Okay, I need to go to
One-
Bhakti. Hare
yeah,
Krishna.
One girl gave me an envelope, and I opened it up. She said, thank you for fighting for my freedom. Oh my God. She said, thank you for fighting for my freedom. It's just amazing, you know. There's just so much love. Even this little child, you know. So it's everyone. It was amazing.
Mhm.
It's unbelievable. Just my heart is just opened my heart so much. It's an incredible experience. And we might think, well, it's not really Krishna conscious or anything, but it reminded me so much of one beautiful bhajan, one beautiful song by one of our great acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was the father of Prabhupada's spiritual master. And it said that he says in one song that only when I feel compassion for all living beings will all my offenses cease, and I will then get an attraction for chanting the holy name. So in that way, it's not at all unrelated to Krishna consciousness, because to reach the higher levels of Krishna consciousness, you can only get there if you love everyone. If you don't love everyone, then that's in one sense, that's offensive, because Krishna loves everyone. And if we don't love everyone, then Krishna's not going to be pleased. So, you know, if we want to love Krishna, you have to love who he loves. He loves everyone. So, you know, it's really very closely related to Krishna consciousness, that we should feel compassion towards others. Some people say, oh, you Hare Krishnas, you just love Krishna, you don't love anyone else. But that's not true at all. If you really love Krishna, you should love everyone. If you don't love everyone, it means you're not very advanced in Krishna consciousness. You know, like that. Anyway, there's so many things we could say about, even like if we look at Prabhupada, you know, that, I mean, he even loved like a bug on the floor of his room. One time the servant saw, why is Prabhupada staring for like 10 minutes at a spot on the floor? And Prabhupada said, do you see that bug? He hasn't moved. I think he must be hungry. Go and get a prasadam flower and take him outside so he can get some nourishment. I mean, oh my God, you know, he loves the bug. What to speak of protesters? You know, well, he loves even the bug, you know, so, you know, and we see, you know, how Krishna conscious he was. You know, so there is definitely a relationship like that. Anyway, I better shut up here.
Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you so much, and see you next week.
Yeah,
Yes, Krishna willing.
Wonderful. I'll see you on Saturday, you girls.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Gulshan.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.